Hello and welcome to the Ring of WNBA show. Happy Pride, by the way. Happy Pride. Had to start the episode with that, but I'm very excited to welcome a guest, a fan favorite, I think, Nekias Duncan, a WNBA Twitter media general favorite. Nekias Duncan, one half of the Dunker Spot podcast, a repeat guest who is going to be powering through a lot of different topics with me today. How's it going, Nekias?
I am doing well. Very nice intro. Feel warm and fuzzy now. I think we're good to go. Want to echo the Happy Pride sentiments before we get started, but excited to bounce around the league because we are off to an interesting start. I'll put it that way.
Very interesting start, and I like that you use the word start because we were kind of getting to that halfway point between small sample size and making real conclusions. And I wanted to have you on today because I tend to jump the gun a little bit, and I've always appreciated the way that you are a little bit more measured. So I'm hoping you can balance me out here. But let's start with the two undefeated teams in the WNBA so far, the Lynx and the Minnesota Liberty. I think if there's one thing that we can come away with early this season, it's that these two teams are just on a tier above everybody else. And I think the Liberty in particular, do you want to start with the Liberty?
Well, we might as well start with the Liberty. The defending champs, they have been monstrous this year and frankly unfair. Like, this is a team that is chock full of length and versatility and skill and different lineup combinations that you can get into. And they're just beating up everyone. And like, that sounds very boring / cliche to say, but like, this has just kind of been the Liberty bit. Like, they just move the ball so well. They move their body so well. They puncture gaps better than just about anyone. And then you try to score and they say absolutely not. It's very much, I was having this conversation the other day. Like, you look at who they have in their starting lineup, and it's Natasha Cloud, who's going to very much be in conversations for an all-defense team. Leonie Fevish, who should be in a conversation for an all-defense team. Brianna Stewart, who's going to be in the conversation for an all-defense team. Jonquel Jones, who's also going to be in the conversation for an all-defense team.
Here.
Yeah. And then here's Sabrina Ionescu, and it's just like, she reminds me...
Kind of low-key also be in a conversation for all defense this year.
Like, she's been very good on defense this year. Just like I was having the conversations, like, this reminds me of Steph, in where with those peak Warriors teams, okay, we're going to put Steph in action, not because he's bad, but because y'all have a bunch of all defense caliber players around him, and you're just the smallest person on the court. So like, by default, we're just going to go after you. And, wrote about it a little bit today by Power Rankings. Teams haven't had a lot of success going after Sabrina Ionescu. Like, that was one of the things that popped up with the season opener when they faced the Aces. One of the takeaways I had was, well, Jackie Young kind of has to be the second best player for the Aces in this matchup for this to really work for them. And within that, you have to win the Sabrina matchup because there really isn't anything else to poke at. And if Sabrina is able to hold up on drives, she's able to hold up on ball screens, if she's able to scram her way out of matchups when the Aces are able to get her to switch on to like Asia or somewhere else, where else do you go? And so she's done her job. You can't score on this group. And then you get them in early offense. You can't stop this group. And this is how you get, a plus 25.1 net rating through the first 7 games of the season. Like, it's been absurd what they've been able to do so far this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like one element of this is you replace Courtney Vandersloot, bless her heart, hope that she's having lovely pride with Allie Quigley right now. But I just have to say that the drop off when you replace Courtney Vandersloot with Natasha Cloud on the defensive end, and now it turns Sabrina Ionescu into the one weak link that you have on defense, and all of a sudden that link is no longer very weak. It's just it makes sense that you're seeing everything that we're seeing right now. And the other thing too is they just look even more versatile. I love that you bring up the Warriors comparison because I'm starting to see this team in the context of teams that have gone back to back, have had like potentially dynastic runs here. I think it's a little bit early to say that, but I do think that when you have these elite teams, there becomes a point in their run where they start to peak, and at the very least, I don't know if New York has hit its peak yet, but it is certainly peaking in the iteration that we have seen so far, in my opinion. And I think a lot of that has to do with continuity and the fact that they are even more versatile defensively this year. Like, Jonquel Jones is stepping out on screens even more. Natasha Cloud and Leonie Fevish can defend your 4, can defend potentially some of your 5s. And it just makes them an impossible team to get any buckets against. And then on the offensive end of the ball, You pointed this out, I think, on Twitter. I think against the Connecticut Sun, who they thrashed by the way, 48 points, 48 points, burying the lead there. I think that and their win against Chicago might have something to do with their absurd net rating early this season. They have been able to pass on a level that, like, last year, the one thing you could do is say, okay, this is an incredible collection of talent, but sometimes they start going one-on-one. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it all fits together. You would have these moments where they would sputter a little bit because they couldn't, like, they might have the mismatch, but they can't exactly figure out how to get to it. None of that is happening this year at all. At all. Everything is just a little bit sharper, a little bit crisper. You have Natasha Cloud being an incredible connector, not only as a point guard, but as a screener. And I'm also, I want to say, if anybody is drinking at, early on a Wednesday morning or whenever you listen to these, I think that you should drink every time we say inverted pick and roll on this podcast, because I think it's going to be coming up a lot. I think it's going to be coming not only with the Liberty, but I just love that element that she's given them. Where, I mean, you already had it last year with Phoebage as well, but her ability to be the screener as a guard, to open up a player like Stewie, and then be the player in the short roll who also finds somebody in the corner, and to be able to use her quickness. And I think you wrote about this, but to be able to use her quickness as a driver to actually be more of a passer than a finisher, this system just accentuates all of her strengths, and it doesn't play into her weaknesses at all. And it's just, we're just in this situation now where I was coming into the season really feeling, I think we all were, right? Like, okay, all the narrative power was behind the Minnesota Lynx. They're going to get their revenge. And we definitely should dive into them. But at the same time, I just look at how dominant New York has been, and how even in the context of the two being of the two undefeated teams, they just look a cut above everybody else so far.
Yeah, I think quickly bouncing off of that, you talked about the ball movement with them. The Minnesota Lynx set the assist rate record last year, assisted on a little over 76% of their made baskets last year. The Liberty are now at 78% to start this season. We will see if that dips. It probably will, because that's just absurd. But that's just a quick testament to how well they're moving the ball, how unselfish that they're playing. And going back to that Sun game, they assisted on the first 19 made shots that they had. And it was it was 20 of 21 at a certain point. And it was just like, I was watching that game, chuckling, because what are you supposed to do if you're the Connecticut Sun at this point? But you finally get to the end of the first half, and it's double drag. Natasha Cloud just turns the corner coming off that second screen. Nobody helps from the strong side corner. I want to say it was Sabrina in that corner. And she just gets a free layup. I'm just like, darn, there went the assist streak. But two, what are you supposed to do? Who are you supposed to help off of? The ball's in Natasha Cloud's hand, who is the worst shooter in the starting lineup, and she's shooting 38% from three to start the year. That's probably going to dip at some point. But if the worst shooter on the floor has the ball and is also the best driver in the lineup, and now you just have shooters all over the place, where do you help? What are you supposed to do as a defense at that point? And so
that gets into another early all-time record as well, and one that I think will drop somewhat, but I still think that New York could end up shooting more threes than any other team in WNBA history, or at least making more. Right now, the Valkyries are actually shooting more threes than any other team in WNBA history.
They are getting them up.
They are getting them up. They are not making a lot of them, which has cleared space for New York. 12.3 makes per game. Ooh. Now you have Cloud shooting 38%. You also have Kennedy Burke shooting above 50%. You have Leonie Phoebage shooting above 50%. I believe that they are top 4 in the W right now in 3-point accuracy amongst semi-high volume shooters. I do think that those numbers will drop, but at the same time, even if they drop a little, by the way, also I'll add their accuracy. They're shooting 38% from 3.
Seems good.
That seems good, right? Especially at that volume. At that volume, the only team, actually not even at that volume, so they're shooting about 33s per game. The only team to shoot above 23s per game and shoot at a higher percentage is the Seattle Storm. Make it over 22 and there's just nobody even. So this is just unprecedented. and it's super early in the season. And I think both teams have had somewhat easy schedules to start the season. So I think some of these numbers will normalize. But I think it also just speaks to the way that New York has just, you look at who else is on those leaderboards. Mm-hmm. It's the 2021 Liberty. It's the 2022 Liberty. It's the 2024 Liberty. You know what I mean? Like this is just a team that has pushed the envelope consistently on the offensive end, and now they are getting into earth-shattering levels of efficiency.
It's nuts. Like this can just get better. Like this is the early stages of them playing with Natasha Cloud in particular, so that could get better. Like Sabrina Ionescu shooting well from 3 over her last 2 games. She has gotten off to a slow start from behind the arc, as terrifying as that is. She's starting to heat up. Brianna Stewart, which I just don't know what the jumper is at this point, but like we do have a history of her being a good 3-point shooter. So like just in a literal sense, like 2 of your 3 best players can just shoot better than what they have been so far.
The Stewie thing, it's kind of strange, right? Like, so this is somebody who spent first 5-6 years as a high volume, high difficulty shooter, shooting about 37% for her career. And then since I went back and looked at this last night, actually, since August 17th, 2023, she's shooting 27% on 333 attempts. Shout out Angel numbers per game, but like total since then. So that to me, I don't know. I'm kind of ready to just say that maybe let's not expect Stewie to end up being a shoot, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as everybody else is spacing, and she's still able to get to the line. Like she's just getting to the line using all this space, right? I do think it's kind of interesting. One thing that I do want to point out with this Liberty team is where they're going to get their points in the paint from. And they're doing a pretty good job of it so far, but it almost feels like they're in this sort of situation where we're going to make up for the drop off in Stewie's production and the drop off in not having a Benijah Laney Hamilton and not having a Kayla Thornton in the aggregate. We're going to have more Jonquel Jones rolling as opposed to popping. We're going to have more Leonie Feebage ducking into the rim. And so far it's working, but I do think that it's something to watch, especially as it pertains to a potential matchup against the Minnesota Lynx, where last year it felt like they just thrashed them in the paint when they were at their best. And that applies to the offensive boards too, which has not been as much of a strong suit from them this season. So the composition of this team has certainly changed. And I am curious how that ends up, being a factor kind of down the line as they play better teams.
Yeah, like that. The paint thing is going to be interesting. And like, shout out my guy Steve, I made the point last week. Like the one thing that you can kind of poke at with the Liberty Stars is that they just have not been a good rebounding team. Like this is something that I asked Sandy Brundello about with the offensive rebounding in particular, because they said early on, like coming out of training camp, there's going to be more 5 out, different spacing concepts for them. And I asked her, like, how are you going to balance the spacing with the offensive rebounding prowess? Because you were really good last year and that ramped up in the postseason. And she kind of danced around the question a little bit, but just in general, we don't want to lose that edge. We're going to find a way to find that balance. And they have just been at the bottom of the league in terms of offensive rebounding so far this year, which is fine when you're scoring like this and defending like this. But the defensive rebounding hasn't quite been there. Like some of that is playing the sky. Some of that is the Aces missing a bunch of threes in the opener and they're getting a bunch of long rebounds. But like they haven't really secured the glass at a high level yet. That also feels like low-hanging fruit for them. So that gets better. Again, what are you poking at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little bit more concerned with the defensive rebounding as opposed to the offensive, unless the 3-point efficiency really, really drops. But it does kind of get to, I guess, like let's get into the Lynx side of this, because I think that if there's definitely consistency conversation to be had with them so far this season. But one thing that I think is definitely improved is their ability to board, and I think so much of that has just come down to Jessica Shepard being able to give them a look that they just didn't have last year.
Her physicality in general, I think, is something that the Lynx needed. Just the body up players on post ups on either end of the floor. And as you mentioned, the rebounding was big. Like the Lynx making this finals run, despite being one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, just period, is not something that generally happens in basketball, for one, but especially in terms of W history, with how important winning the paint has been historically across the league. And so you naturally lean on what they were able to do defensively. Their switching, their scheme versatility overall really popped last year. And you have seen elements of that this year. Like it hasn't been the same elite level defense that we're used to, but switching a little bit more. And I think in general, the physicality has just felt a little bit better for them. So like that is something that I expect to continue to perk up and improve as the season goes on. Offensively, The flow is just filthy, complimentary. Like they very much built on what they were doing last year in terms of poking at matchups when we want to do that. But the ball doesn't stagnate with them. We'll flow above the break with one of the bigs, whether that's Jessica Shepard, whether that's Nekias Collier, whether that's Alana Smith. And now you have a decision to make. One, can you deal with me in space? And if you can't, you're not going to have a good time. If you're pressing up with me, here's someone cutting off. There's a layup. Or we're going to swing it to the wing. We got all-ball action happening over here. If you switch, that's a problem. We'll turn this into a post-up. If you try to fight over, there's a crease. Someone's cutting. They're getting to the basket. And they just do such a good job of turning whatever you want to do defensively on its head. It's just a tough group to deal with. And that's before getting into, we can't just give the ball to Nekias Collier if we want to, who has played at an MVP level again. Like, if all else fails, this is a joke that Steve makes all the time. You deal with all of our body movement and player movement. Now it's 8 on the clock. You think you did a good job. Here's Nekias Collier.
Yeah. She's good just going to post you up. I think he tweeted, like, here's Nekias Collier with 2 feet in the paint. Like, that's it. That's it. Like, that's our break in case of emergency. It's the leading scorer in the WNBA who's putting up absurd efficiency splits right now, and is one of the best players in the post from that range that she's going to get to at the end of the clock, by the way. Oh, and now she's shooting 3-pointers at a highly efficient rate as well. And while still remaining one of the most unfair matchups in the WNBA, third in minutes played per game. Still, I wish we had more tracking data in the W, because I would guarantee you that she would lead the W in distance traveled on offense and defense, and average speed as well. And that's just, I mean, gosh, like, we all know this about Fee, but you just can't say it enough. You know, like, I was watching that game against the Storm, like the multiple possessions where, you know, she tries to get an offensive rebound, then also is able to get to the other end of the court on the defensive end, just sprinting ahead of everybody, or vice versa, where she'll contest a shot. Like, there was one where she contested a shot, got her own rebound, pushed the ball up immediately to Courtney Williams, who she's had incredible pick and roll with chemistry with, like, especially this season, and then gets the offensive rebound off of a Courtney miss, gets a putback. Like, she's just everywhere all at once. And it's just kind of, I mean, it's just, now the stats are kind of backing up her greatness as well too. But they always have to some degree, but you've had to dig into the advanced stats sometimes to make the case for Fee, but now it's everything. It's accounting stats. It's like the intricacies that you see within the game. It's like when you kind of pause and see everywhere that she's at, but she can just do everything for this Minnesota offense. And to me right now, she's the best player in the W, and she's certainly making the case early this season for MVP. Obviously Asia has something to say about that, and it's still a long season. But I just think about her unguardability on and off the ball, right? Like, I think about some of the ways that you can slow down even like an Asia or even like a Caitlin Clark by putting certain different matchups on them. And I think that's kind of the argument that a lot of people have made about both of those players, right? Like, well, nobody in the league gets guarded like them. But like, you watch Fee more closely and it's like, you just couldn't. You cannot guard Fee like the way that you tried to guard any of those players. She will just backdoor cut you. Like, she just, like, you know, like, if you there's no scheme that could withstand like the movement that she's constantly doing, the fact that she's always going to outthink you, you know, like, you want to overplay, she's got you on the back cut. If you want to load to one side, I don't think, and I was going to ask you about this, like, you know, we both watch a ton of NBA as well. As far as like player moving and the defense freaking out, like the movement to danger ratio, is there a player other than maybe like Steph Curry or Nikola Jokic that would terrify a defense more just with like the most simple off-ball movement?
Like, I think, funny enough, I'm glad you said the name. Like, Jokic is probably the closest I can get to Fee with, we run something, we don't get anything. I'm like standing either on the wing or like a step or so inside, and it's just random cut catch on the move. Like, you can easily envision the random cut from the middle of the floor slicing into the paint from Nikola Jokic. Like, naturally, you know, Denver also
the random cut. Then you overplay the drive. She spins and fakes you, and then like probably draws a foul and hits a contested like fading 7-footer.
Yeah, it just makes you feel bad inside. But like that's probably the closest.
And it has the same sort of like the Anthony Davis, like, come on, what am I supposed to do?
It's nuts, but like that's probably the closest thing, like the Jokic off-ball movement. And again, like Denver will run Jokic off of pin downs and make you feel bad. Like, well, okay, are we switching this? What exactly are we going to do? Like the Murray Jokic thing is probably most closely replicated by Kayla McBride and Fee, especially with once you get into like the inversion of it. Because obviously, if you're just talking about 2-player pairings in a vacuum, like you still have Chelsea and Asia.
That's, by the way, that's Sabrina and Stewie. Inverted pick and roll if you want to drink.
There we go. But like the fact that he can get to those kind of looks on and off the ball, like that's probably where your NBA stylistic comp comes in. And which very quickly on Kayla McBride, hey, we're just going to let you catch your breath as you've just been playing basketball for so long. When you're ready, come on back. She comes back. Here's 17 points per game on like 70 true shooting. It's
Do the Lynx even have consistency issues in the first half, or were they just missing Kayla McBride?
That may be the bit. Like it's funny because like I feel like Courtney Williams has played very well this year, and she just hasn't hit shots to the degree that we're used to. And so, but then you get to the fourth quarter. Do you want to duck under Courtney Williams when they go into some of those low ball screens? I don't. You want to play drop against Courtney Williams, period, in the fourth quarter? Like I don't. It almost doesn't matter that she hasn't shot that well. So
she also shoots better, in my opinion. Like I'm just gonna go purely off of vibe. She shoots better in the fourth quarter than she does in any other quarter. Like even looking at some of their, I was trying to like figure like who's playing worse in the first half versus second half, and like her numbers just get way better in the second half. Or it's like like there's just and then that's kind of the thing with Minnesota too, where they will kind of not only solve you through the course of the game, but also figure out who has it going, then just find a way to get the ball to them. I do think that there's some stuff to watch there with them. Like I am quietly watching like Bridget Carleton's efficiency this season and waiting for it to get back to last year's levels. And I think that was always kind of the worry with Minnesota, right? Like it's everybody kind of peaked last year and they were the best versions of themselves. And that's what kind of allowed the machine to work. And if there is a player who like we are seeing, a lot of players play better, but if there's anybody who has kind of regressed a little bit early this season, it's her.
Like I think she kind of felt that early minute spike while Kayla McBride was out, and this is on top of her taking on tough defensive assignments. Like her and Carly Samuelson, who honestly Carly's been working her tail off defensively this year. But I think that plus just early season variance is kind of where I lived on that. So I'm not super concerned about Bridget on that end. Like if it was she's not shooting well and the defense has slid, it's like ooh.
Yeah. Let's say we're 20 games into the season. We're still looking at these splits, but right now it's still pretty early.
Yeah, so I'm not super concerned on that front. Now that you have Kayla back in the fold, should just kind of slot everyone into like a more natural hierarchy on both ends. So like I'm expecting that to be fine moving forward. But yeah, like it's funny to think the Lynx have done all of these good things. They're undefeated, and you talk to them or listen to any of them, nobody's happy. Like, right. Well, yeah, this is cool, but I think we can tighten the screws here. I feel like the ball move will be a little bit better here. We got to get better shot select. And it's just like, this is very Nekias coded, I feel. I'm never satisfied, but that's the mark. They very much want this revenge tour. Like, I don't think they would dub it that way, but they felt away with how that finals ended. And I think just in general, they hold themselves to a very high standard. So this is what you get. You get a really good basketball club on both ends with room to improve on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like the Liberty felt a way about how that finals ended too. Like that's kind of what's interesting to watch about them is they almost feel like, and this is a point that Sabrina Merchant made, like where they kind of, but I wanted to ask you about it since you have so much familiarity with that team. She kind of compared them to the 2023 Aces, where even though they won the title, they felt like they had a lot to prove. And it's kind of a rare combination to win a title, but still feel slighted somehow. But it does feel like the New York Liberty have that. And if you kind of look at some of like the early season numbers, whether it's net rating stuff or how many games that they've won, they are pretty similar to that 2023 Aces team, which is also the last team, of course, in the W2 repeat titles.
I like it. Like, I wonder how much of it is, I guess, to do something to prove portion of the program. I wonder how much of it is the noise about the refereeing in the finals. Right. How much of it is, okay, yeah, you beat the Aces, but they had the Olympic break and injuries and yada, yada, yada. Are y'all actually better than them? I wonder just what those external factors are for them to kind of feel that way. Honestly, they're all professional athletes, so they don't really need a logical reason to feel slighted. Like it,
right? They'll find one.
You sneeze and don't say "bless you." It's like, all right, bet, and they're ready to go. So like, it won't take it won't technically take anything. But like, I do wonder like what the primary motivation for those feelings would be if they have them. It wouldn't surprise me because they've certainly come out on a mission on this point. Like, it could just be as simple as, hey, let's win another one for Tosh. She's happy to be here. We're excited to have her. And she also just brings this kind of energy on both ends of the floor that even if we wanted to feel satisfied with ourselves, we got that person in the locker room. She's not going to let us feel satisfied with ourselves.
Exactly.
And this is where you get peak version of the Liberty or close enough to it.